Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Ah, that smooth, mellow melody will get us through the morning. Hey, y'all. Happy Sunday. Man, it's It's a day. I'm here to tell you what. Thankfully, the clouds are breaking up, and our typical Oregon winter weather is on pause for a couple of days. But this too shall pass. We're looking at more rain starting Wednesday. But what can I say? We get on average 18 inches of rain in what they call a water year here, and we're already over 20 inches. But hey, what can you say? We'll muddle through somehow. A little bit of inside baseball behind the scenes before we get going today. Um, if you're getting a little bit of deja vu or showed up here yesterday thinking that there was going to be a live stream, you are not totally at fault. Um, that was a that was a mistake on my part. The last video I posted was in November. All right. So I went to record and uh, edit and post and close caption the video that was released this morning, and I was lost. I ain't kidding you. I couldn't remember anything. It took me like triple the amount of time it normally would have taken for a 26-minute video. And I still didn't get everything because I scheduled it to be released, I thought, Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern. I never scheduled it. So it went live at midnight on Saturday. So it was up until I got up in the morning. Then I saw Steve had posted had promoted it on Facebook, and I'm like, what? How could he see that? Did he become a channel member or something? Because channel members get early access to all my videos. That's why, if you're wondering how come there were already comments when it went live this morning, those are channel members. Anyway, and in that video, I said this afternoon at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, I'll be hosting a live Q&A. And so folks showed up yesterday expecting a live Q&A. I will learn. I just got to get back into it, man. But that's okay. This too shall pass. So, welcome aboard. Now, before we get going, I I have to. It's tradition, and far be it from me to break tradition. I need to say hello and thank you to my friend Steve over at Harneal Media, the sponsor of Mark Lindsay CNC.com. Look, if you're even toying with the idea of setting up a website for a blog or to showcase your products and your services. You want to create a photo gallery as kind of a visual resume as to what kind of work you can do, what kind of work you enjoy doing. There's no better way to do it than with your own website. Steve can even help you set up a web store so that you can offer your products and services to the public directly. No more dealing with listing fees and commissions and the site you're listed on advertising your competition off to the left while people are looking at your store and your products. You're in complete control. He can even set you up with a print on demand company that will take care of merch if you want to create t-shirts, mouse pads, coffee cups, baseball caps, you name it, they can do it. You owe it to yourself to go check out Harneal Media. Now, there's a link to Harneal Media in the description of every video and live stream on this channel. So get down in that description, go over to harnealmedia.com, hit the contact us link, and shoot Steve a message. He's used to working with folks of all different skill and knowledge levels when it comes to website design and maintenance. If you are a seasoned veteran and you're just looking for somebody to take care of the back end while you take care of everything else on the website, He can work with you. If you're like me and don't know what you're doing, he can take care of you. He's very, very competitively priced, and believe me, when you see his services, you'll wonder how the heck he does it so cheap. So again, do yourself a favor, get over to Harneal Media, link in the description, click on that contact us button, and shoot Steve a message. You'll be glad you did. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for everything you do for me. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Okay, today was the official release of the part 11 of my Vectric 12 Plus, version 12 Plus for the Absolute Beginner series. And today we got into the move tool, move selected objects tool, and the set selected objects size tool. And there were a few things that I didn't um, really explain all that well upon review, but it was so late in the process that I didn't get back into it. So let me kind of get back over here into Aspire. But this works the same way in VCarve and Cut 2D, both. So um, let me throw a vector up here real quick, and we'll do that. All right. In talking about set selected object size, let me bring this kind of up here a little bit. In talking about set selected object size, when talking about the anchor point, the point that I was trying to make and just didn't spit it out and use these words was the fact that when you anchor from the center, your center point stays put. It doesn't move. So if you have, for instance, let me get rid of this here, and we'll create a bunch of half-inch circles. All right. And we got boom, 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 boom. This is a pattern that you have to keep. Your measurements from center to center here are correct. Your measurements center to center here are correct. You need these holes, these circles, to stay in this position. But you need to make them smaller or larger for some reason. Maybe these are holes to receive a dowel, and you set it up for half-inch dowel, and later on you need to change it for 3/8 inch dowel. But you need these to stay in this location. That's when you would come along and resize them individually and anchor those circles in the center. That way their location does not change, just the diameter changes. I also kept referring to, if I change my width in X, my height in Y will also change. But I never referenced the fact that if I change my height in Y, the width in X will also change because of this link XY. I never actually said it doesn't matter which one of these you change. With link XY checked, it will stay in these proportions. For instance, I can change now my height in Y to 0.375, and my width in X changes. And because I have my anchor point set to the center, the location of these circles will not change, just the size. So I can click apply, And now I have the exact same pattern with the exact same locations, just a different size here. This comes in real handy when you're working with some of these slot together puzzles where you have a tab that's going into for instance, a 1/4 inch tall by 3/4 inch wide slot. And you go get some 1/8 inch plywood. You can now select all of those slots, and using set selected object size, you can anchor them in the center and change the height of those slots without changing their location. So that was something I didn't mean to create a bunch of confusion in that. Also, in set selected object size, we have down here the scale space. I was saving this for a future video. I could either go with a job aligned box or rotated bounds. I'm saving this explanation for a future video when we talk about rotating and mirroring vectors. Because if you look right now, I have all of these selected. Rotated bounds is grayed out. I can't even select that yet. I will get into this scale space when I get into rotating and mirroring vectors. Okay. That was an intentional oversight, let's just say. So, did anybody have any questions on that video before I get into your other questions? We have a couple over here off to the side. It's good to see you, David. Thank you for reminding me about your situation. But did anybody have any questions about today's video? If you do, please feel free to put them over in the chat, and we'll get to them uh, just as in due course, just as quick as we can. So for right now, I'm going to take care of Dion's question first because it's rather simple. Has Vectric ever talked about making a true high resolution preview toolpath rendering? It's very blocky rendering right now. Okay, there are a couple of things. Whoops, excuse me. There are a couple of things to look at here, Dion. Number one, let me go ahead and make this full screen. And I'll get rid of some other confusing things here. And that is when you're doing your preview, your toolpath preview, if you go up here to toolpaths and come down here to preview simulation quality, normally I have mine set to standard out here when I'm broadcasting to you. That is simple. That is simply because I've got a lot of stuff going on in the background here. And this uses so many resources that it can slow down everything. So I normally have this set on standard. But if you come down to preview simulation quality and set it, for instance, at the maximum, it will take longer to render and take longer for that preview to go through, and eventually, it'll take longer for your previews to run, but that will give you the highest quality of the previews. And let's see, it is high resolution, but a lot of things also, I don't know why I popped over here. It is high resolution, but a lot of things also depend on your system. If you have a robust video card in your system, that's going to help a lot because the GPU will process that faster. That GPU is dedicated to rendering that 3D preview. If you don't have a robust video card, get as much RAM in that computer as you can. What I'm getting at is it may be a limitation based on the resources that you have available in your computer. So try getting into, again, that is Toolpath's preview simulation quality. And if, like I said, out here I normally use standard or high, but when I'm working in the house on something where I'm not using a lot of resources to broadcast and all this other good stuff, I will use the maximum, especially if I'm saving a preview image to send to a client or something like that. So Dion says, I was just setting job setup modeling resolution. Your method works much better. They work kind of hand in hand. But the difference is the modeling resolution over here in job setup, that has to do with how the 3D models are imported, or if it's an STL file, for example, or rendered if you're using clip art. Okay. If you import this in at a low resolution, it's well, let me go back over here to the design tab and go back into job setup. At standard resolution, it's kind of like a photo image, okay? I've got a 12-inch wide, 12-inch tall piece of material here. At standard resolution, it's dividing this surface into 1 million points. But if I go to very high, it's dividing this up into 4 million points. So that right there is going to give you better detail and less blockiness on the actual model. Okay. And it does make a difference in the final product. That resolution does make a difference in the final product, because just like with a photo in an imaging software, the more pixels you have for a size, the greater detail. It's the same with this. Remember, the 3D models used in Vectric software are bitmap based. Okay, they use depth maps. So dividing that bitmap, that depth map of the 3D model, the smaller you can make those pixels, the more detail you're going to get. So, all right. I hope that answers that, Dion. Basically, Toolpath's preview simulation quality. But again, they work hand in hand. If you import the 3D model at a low resolution, then try to capture a preview photo at high resolution, you're still going to have that low resolution model. And if you set this up at standard resolution and import a model, then come back and change the resolution, it will not change the resolution of that model. You'll have to get rid of it and re-import it at the higher resolution. Okay? That model is going to stay at the resolution you set when you did your job setup. Now, you can set it up with standard resolution and then come back and change it later on to high resolution, as long as you do it before you import the first 3D content. Okay? So, I hope that helps. All right, let's see here. We have, all right, let's get into another question here from David Zangmeister. David sent me an email about this, and I said, well, it's easier to talk about when I can show than it is to try to type out in text. So I told David I would talk about this, and thank you for joining us, David. Is there a way to trick Vectric into cutting a groove in the side of a piece with an appropriate slot cutting bit? Yes, there is. But it's kind of sketchy. It's kind of dangerous, okay? Basically, what you'll want to do is, let me get set up over here for, all right, now. Basically, what you'll want to do is you'll want to kind of, as you say, trick it into doing what you want to do. What I mean by dangerous is you said an appropriate slot cutter. Appropriate is kind of subjective, if you get what I mean. Okay. And just so we're all on the same page here, I went and did a search for some slot cutting bits. The potentially dangerous part, David, is if you look, 99% of them have a guide bearing, either on the bottom or up on the top. So just straight up, don't try to use a bit with a guide bearing on it. You're asking for trouble. Don't try to use a bit with a guide bearing on it. Now, most of these you can remove the guide bearing, but you're still going to have a little nub down there at the bottom that the guide bearing bolts to. Okay, you're using an Amana 45660. All right, let's take a look. This is a fun exercise for me. Amana 45660. Shaboom. What does that look like? Okay. All right, it's a T-slot, square edge cutter. All right. You will have to go through and set this up. Obviously, you've got your diameter, you've got your height here, your cutter height. You also have a diameter here and a length here. This is something you got to keep in mind when you're doing it. Now, what you want to do is you want to use this to cut a slot in the edge of a piece of material. Okay. Just know that you're restricted. The deepest you can cut is the area between this edge and this edge. That's as deep as you can go. So you'll be able to cut that deep of a slot in the edge. Okay, that's fine. I don't see anything that tells me what that is. Let me just go ahead and go to the page and we'll see if we've got any kind of a, yeah, I know you got cookies. Let's see. and nothing that says how deep it'll cut. Cutting height is 13/16. Shank. Okay, D1. Nope. That's the diameter of the slot here. It doesn't say what that is. I don't know if you know. B1. It's 5/16 tall, but it doesn't say what this depth is. Oh, well, that's all right. Let's just, for giggles, say that it's 1/4 of an inch, okay? What you're going to want to do is you need to draw a vector, obviously, for the bit to follow, all right? So we also need to figure out where that vector is going to be placed. Now, this is kind of sort of cheating. I'm going to assume that this is the edge. I want to put that vector on and that I want to cut. All right. Yeah, and I don't have a DXF viewer on this computer. Okay. This computer I have limited programs on because I don't use it for much out here. So there's the edge that I want to cut the slot into. And I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch deep. I want that slot to be 1/4 of an inch in to the edge of the material. So I'm going to say minus 0.25 equals, and move that guide inward 1/4 of an inch. I'll close it. This is where I'm going to draw my vector. So looking at that bit, I can see that the diameter is 1 1/8 inches. I'm going to double that because I want the bit to come down out here and out here. I want that bit to make it Z plunge off of the material, then come in, enter the material at the correct depth, and come down here and cut all the way through and come out, then retract. Okay? So what I'm going to do is, see, I'm going to start about here. I'll just draw my vector here, then come down and shaboom. Close. Click off. Now I'm going to delete that guide. Now, bet you didn't know it was going to dovetail in with what I showed yesterday. I'm going to scale this vector up. So I've got it selected. Come over to set selected object size. I'm going to scale the selection. I'm going to unlink the XY. My height is 24 inches. The bit is 1 1/8. Doubling that, it's 2 1/4. So I'm going to add 2 1/4 to this. Then I'm going to add another 1/2 inch. That way it misses this material by 1/4 of an inch in both directions. So I want to add 2 3/4. So I'll just go plus 2.75 equals. So that's going to be the height in Y. I'm anchoring from the center. Click apply. And now my vector is Let's get a dimension here. Hello. Let's get a dimension here. See, this is what I mean. It's really slowing down my system because I have that rendering so high. Well, that's part of the reason. Come on, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. I've got so many things going on this computer. There we go. I want a length dimension from here to here. I can pull that out 1 3/8 inches. So this bit is going to clear when it plunges down to my cut depth. It's going to do it out here. Okay. Well, I no longer need that dimension. We waited all day for me to do that. All right. So now I can select that vector. I can come over here. Here's where it gets a little tricky. Okay. That bit is 5/16. That's the cutting height. Oh, that's the cutting height, 5/16 of an inch. Half of that is 5/32 of an inch. Sorry, metric folks, we're working in fractions. Half of that is 5/32 of an inch. We need to put that, the center of that bit, in the center of this board. Okay. That's going to require a little bit of math. And they said there'd be no math. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a profile toolpath. So I want the bottom of that bit to be 5/32 below the center of my board. Now my board is 3/4 of an inch thick. Half of that is 3/8 of an inch. I have to add 5/32 to that to get my cut depth. Okay. But it's not going to be my cut depth. It's going to be my start depth. My cut depth is going to be 0. My start depth is going to be, I don't know, the 5/32. I don't know what the heck that decimal equivalent is. But I do know 3/8 plus 5/32 equals, there's my start depth. That's my start depth. That's where the bottom edge of that bit is going to go. Okay. Bear with me. I'm doing a cut depth of 0. Okay. It's going to plunge down to that depth and just move. Okay. It's going to have to do it in a single pass. It has to do it in a single pass. We're going to go. Now, here's where you may have a problem. If we look at this black dot, that tells me that's the start point. Okay. It's going to come up here and it's going to plunge. I want to machine to the inside of that vector. Again, when figuring this out, whether you're going to go outside to the right or inside to the left, imagine standing on that start point and looking in the direction of travel. If I go outside to the right, it's going to cut in. If I go inside to the left, the edge of that bit's going to follow that vector right there. Okay? And we're going to do this all in one pass. We're going to calculate it. Now, unfortunately, Vectric Software will not calculate anything that gives us an undercut. So what it's going to look like is a rabbet cut into this material. But if we look at our toolpath, we see what it's doing. We've got a plunge here to the cutting depth. It's going to move this way, come out here, then lift up and go back to the start point. Okay? Take that back. It's switching up on me. It's going to come down here and then cut that way. Let's see. This is why previews are really, really, really important. Now, again, it's just going to look like a 1/4 inch rabbet because it will not show an undercut. But that shows you what you're looking at. That's what your preview is going to look like. Okay? It will not show this undercut. And there's nothing you can do to change that. Again, you have to kind of trick it into doing what you want it to do. And it's the same thing with the keyhole slot. I will try to go into that later. We've got some other questions I want to get into, but cutting a keyhole is very, very similar. And in fact, that bit that you're using, David, is very similar to a keyhole bit. You've got to be mindful of the cutting height of your cutter and that blade along the shank as well, because it has a depth of cut as well. Let me go into my tool database here and I'll look at, I believe it's in my phone. Yeah, there's my keyhole bit right there. I've put in my cutting depth here, and my pass depth is based on the diameter of that keyhole head and this cutting depth, you know. So, and I run a slow feed rate and a slow plunge rate on purpose, simply because it's going to plunge in, move about maybe an inch. I think the longest keyhole I've ever cut has been a horizontal keyhole that was 2 inches. So it doesn't have to go fast. And in fact, it's better if it doesn't go fast. So, all right. Kurt was asking about, can you go over your method of doing a keyhole slot cut for the back of projects? Very simple. I'll go ahead and do one here. Go back into the 2D view. What I do is I draw a rectangle. Let's say right here. Hello. What's it? Oh, it's got that selected. That's why. I want to draw a rectangle, let's say right here. Okay. Close. Now, this rectangle, I want it to be unlink XY. I want the rectangle to be 0.005. Whoops, more than one decimal. Software don't like that. And I want it to be 0.75. Very tiny. Apply. Close. Now I want to put that in the center of my material in X. So it's right on my 0 line. Now I'm going to zoom in on this. With it selected, I'll go into node edit mode and I'm going to delete that span. So I have a horseshoe. Okay. Now I've got an open vector. That's what I'm going to use for my keyhole bit. I'm going to close that, do a profile. I'm going to come select the bit. Going to use my keyhole bit. And I'm going to look at that pass depth because that's what I'm going to use as a depth of cut. Okay. 0.3438. Select 0.3438. And this is dependent on the bit you have. Every bit's going to be different. Okay. One pass, and I'm going to cut on the vector. So that keyhole bit's going to plunge right here to full depth. It's going to move up, come over 5/1000ths of an inch, come right back down here, then lift up out of that hole. It's going to be off by about 5/1000ths, but it will cut its way out. Okay. And of course, that's the only thing I'm going to do with it. And of course, it will not preview a undercut, which is what that keyhole bit creates. So when I preview it, it's just going to look like a slot, but that is actually going to be a keyhole. So that's how I do the keyholes, Kurt. And again, it's totally dependent on which keyhole bit you have. So you've got to measure everything and take all of that into account. Now, and typically, yes, typically at a lower speed. And that's simply because of the depth of cut. You don't want to stress that bit. You don't want to stress that bit because you can really damage either the project or the machine if you get this wrong. So now Michael Ludwig says the keyhole gadget works very well also. I've never used the keyhole gadget. Do you ever have problems with chips using the keyhole bit? No, but I have good dust collection. So generally speaking, the chips are gone by the time it comes back. But that's why I have it do that little horseshoe shape. It's only 5/1000ths wide. But and you can reduce that if you want to make it 2/1000ths or 3/1000ths or what have you, but 5/1000ths works for me. And it's just moving over just slightly. So what you've got to get that bit to do, it's got to plunge in, move up, and then come back. If you try to overlap two vectors, it's going to try to lift up before coming out, and you don't want it to try to lift up out of that keyhole. So it's got to plunge in, move up, move over just slightly, and then cut its way back, then lift out at the same point that it plunged in. And that's the whole point of that, is doing that very slight U. It'll cut its way there and back and not try to force its way out. And your first pass is at full bit width and depth. Yes. And that's why I run it slow, is give it time to cut instead of trying to force it. So the gadget just needs a hole drawn and does everything itself. Okay. What I did with this, and this is the only G code I saved, I created a vertical 1-inch tall keyhole and a horizontal 1.5 inch wide keyhole. And set my XY 0 to the center. And I save those 2 pieces of G code. Then the next time I need to make a keyhole, I mark on the material where I want that keyhole to be, and then I set my XY 0 at that point, run the keyhole, and I'm done. But I can load either one of those G codes and just run it. So what feeds do I use? Let me look, because I really don't remember. Tool database. We'll go down here to where's it at? There it is, keyhole bit. 20 inches per minute for feed rate and 10 inches per minute for plunge rate. Again, very slow. So, but that's okay. It's maybe, well, let's look. Let's look and see what it is. Machine time for that keyhole is 8 seconds. So for that slot, it was only 18. So I made a video on how to enter a keyhole bit and how to use the keyhole bit in, I want to say it was VCarve. I don't think I had Aspire yet. And I will link that video down in the description of this live stream as soon as we're finished here. Just wrote myself a note. I want to say it was part 12 of my original Absolute Beginner series. And if that's the case, I'll go ahead and make it part 12 of the 12 plus Absolute Beginner series. I'll redo that bit. So let's see here. And as far as the gadget is concerned, Michael, the main reason I didn't use the gadget was because I was VCarve desktop and Cut 2D desktop. They don't have gadget support. They can't use gadgets. So I was trying to come up with a way all users could make a keyhole without relying on gadgets. Okay. Steve, the man, the myth, the legend, there's a link to the video. So when we're done here, you can click on that link and go watch that keyhole video. But again, I will put it down in the description as soon as we're done live. Let's see here. Okay, so this is just a keyhole shape, not a relieved shape below the wood blank C0. I don't know what you mean by that, Wendell. It will, excuse me. The keyhole bit will plunge in, move up, come down, and then retract out of the same hole it plunged into. So it is creating a keyhole slot for you to put a nail or a screw in the wall and put that on there, depending upon whether you did vertical or horizontal. But yeah. Let's see here. Usually run a keyhole horizontal to avoid trying to find hanging in the center of the project. And that's 100% legit, Dwayne. It with me, I found it basically depends on whether what I'm hanging and how big it is. If it's like I guess you'd say portrait oriented, I find that just hanging it in the center, a vertical one on the center, works out fine. But if it's landscape, let's say, then yeah, I use your method no matter how wide it is. And if it's portrait orientation and it's big, I'll use a horizontal one too. It just depends on the project. A couple of people have asked me, why don't you put 2? Oh no, I don't want to put 2 because now you got to line up the nails you drive into the wall, unless it like has to. But Yeah, Michigan map clocks are not centered. And you bring up a good point, Dwayne. Whoops. You bring up a good point, Dwayne, because just because your material is 24 by 24 doesn't mean you've removed the same amount of material down here that you removed up there. So even if it is 24 by 24, this corner may be heavier. So if you hang it by the center, it may droop on that corner. You know what I mean? So that's an excellent point. And that's where a horizontal keyhole will save your bacon. So yeah, a lot of my projects are not centered in them. Yeah, that's totally legit. You know, if you've got, for instance, this is Kurt over at Crafty Jams. Um, he created a cool little anniversary sign for him and his wife, and immediately got an order for one. So good on you. Um, you he made, it looks like a picture frame, and it's, yeah, I guess 18 inches wide and about 6 inches tall. And there's a gnome on each side and some V carved information in the center. Well, one gnome being bigger, taller, and wider than the other, that edge of the board is going to be just a little bit heavier than this edge of the board because he removed more material over here. So if you try to put it in the center, it's going to, do one of those numbers because this side is a little bit heavier. So a horizontal keyhole is the way to go. Absolutely. It's 100% project dependent. So will a bit not run along back and forth on a single line? No. And that's the problem, Alan. It will want to plunge in just like this over here. Um, this is a single line. It will want to plunge in, move down the length of that line, then come out and go back to XY0. It will not come back on that line. So that's why you trick the system. You trick it into doing that. Just make it a little horseshoe. So it'll follow that entire horseshoe. And that's why that horseshoe is so narrow. I mean, in this example, this is 5/1000ths of an inch wide. That is, let's figure it out. That is 0.127 millimeters. That's an eighth of a millimeter. So that's a tiny, tiny horseshoe. So, for hanging plaques, I have found that putting silicone cabinet door bumpers, 1/4 inch diameter at each corner stabilized, it does help. Felt pads as well. Yeah. Little silicone ones or the little felt ones. Yeah. They both help a lot. I've seen people even cover the entire back of a plaque with felt for much the same reason. That just more grip, especially on a textured wall. So let's get into some of these other questions here. Let's see. Alan Williamson says, I need to start learning about 3D. Do you have a series for 3D for beginners? Yes, thank you for asking. However, it's the older versions. All of the methods are the same. The interfaces have changed. That's going to be next on my list, is to do 3D for absolute beginners in version 12. But the methods are the same. And I tell you what, I will link no, there was already a link. You should see a link to 3D for the absolute beginner already down in the description. It should be, you'll have to scroll down a little bit, but there should be one already down in the description of this live stream. If there isn't, I will put it there. Okay. 3D playlist. But I believe it's there already. So, let's see here. Rich Bratcher wants to know, what was the worst thing that happened when upgrading to version 12 changed? Just not being used to the interface. That was the worst thing, just not being used to the interface. Because you got to remember, for instance, this, okay? This wasn't here in version 11.5 and earlier. Wasn't here at all. Everything looked different. The colors were different. Everything was different, completely different. The one thing, and I don't know if you could really consider it the worst, but the one thing that really bugged me, and it still catches me all the time, is in the 3D view here, whether you're previewing or not, in the 3D view, they went from left clicking to move this around to right clicking. And I still want to left click and move this so you see me drawing squares. I still want to left click to wiggle this around. And that's not how you do it. That's what, but I have heard from folks, especially from folks who are colorblind, that they have a real hard time with this layout, with the colors and the sizes of some of these icons. They really tried to put drawing and modeling on the same page. Okay. And on the same tab, rather. I prefer having a separate modeling tab with all my modeling tools over there. So I guess that was probably it. Everything else I more or less liked. It took some getting used to. It took some getting used to learn that I could draw in the 3D view. That was new and, cool. But I picked up on it pretty well. So if I had to pick it, I'd say the worst thing about it was that switching from left click to right click to move around my 3D view. So other than that, yeah, people ask me all the time, do you think it's worth upgrade? Yeah, it's worth the upgrade. I didn't think it would be, but I enjoyed it. I do enjoy it. And now we were talking about this before we went live. Now, if I go back to do something in 11.5, if somebody who doesn't have version 12 sends me a file and I kind of have to look at it, maybe I do a little modification. If I want to send that back to them, I have to do it in 11.5. I get lost in 11.5. I don't remember where things are. I don't remember the icons because I've gotten so used to these. So let's see here. Any issues with the tool database coming over? No, because when you, let's see, I think it's up here. Tool data, no, wasn't this. Where was it? There is a way to merge or migrate from a previous edition. Maybe it's over here. Migrate from an older version. Just migrate. When you go into here, you can migrate data from version 11.5, and here's where you get copy the machine and tool database, back it up online, copy the post process, all of that stuff, and it'll take all of the settings from, in this case, 11.5, and bring it over here so that you virtually have the same setup. Now, normally when you install a new version, it will immediately send you into that. Sometimes it doesn't. But if you go up to, where did I find that? Under help, migrate from older version. And that really helps eliminate a lot of those problems. So, okay, let's see. We've got a couple more questions here. I hope that answered that, Rich. Okay. See, Sam Spade says a project was designed with 6mm plywood. How do you change your project when your material is 4.5? There are tabs and notches that need to be changed. What I'm going to do, Sam, is I'm going to go find Vectric has a video wherein they explained, it was Becky that did the video. They explained the ability to adjust rescale sizes individually. And she did that exact example. And she resized the slots as well as the tabs to fit those slots. She did both, just like you're asking. So I'm going to defer to her video. Tab and slot. So I will find that video and then I'll link it in the description here just as soon as we're finished, okay? And that's simply because there are several steps involved and I don't right off the top of my head recall all of them. But it was fairly simple to do. One word of advice, if you do that, after you've done the conversion, save as and give it a slightly different name. That way you have both of those, one with 6mm, one with 4.5mm. That way you're not eliminating one or the other. But I will go find it. I don't remember the title of it, but I will go find it and I'll link it in the description as soon as we're finished here. Give me about 15 minutes after we're done live here. So let's see. John Thompson says, can you show how to make a fillet inward? Okay. Let me see if I've got this correct. I'll go over here and I'll draw a line, click, and a line, click. And we'll accept that line. Of a fillet. Let's see, a fillet inward. Are you talking about a fillet in this corner for like clearance? Or is that what you're referring to, John? Because a standard normal fillet would just round off that corner to whatever diameter. Wow, that was a tiny radius. Let's go with 0.25, just as to demonstrate. Shebang. Is that what you mean? Like for a sign on the corners? You mean like that? Just a normal fillet? That's what that is. I thought you meant like a relief fillet where, let's see here, get down here and we'll control Z that. Dog bone. Boom, like that. So you can put a piece of stock here and that corner is covered. No? Is that not what you're talking about? Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Close. You're not talking about a fillet. I know what you're talking about now. That gets into when you create the rectangle. Okay, I want to create a rectangle like so. All right, that comes down to corner type. Do you want radius external corners? Say 1 inch. Apply. Okay, we've got radius external corners. Or you can go radius internal corners. 1 inch. Apply. You mean like that? Is that what you're after, John? The internal radius is done when you draw that rectangle. Now, here's another little thing. You notice I have these green corners here. I can change those internal corners by dragging. I push toward, they get smaller. I pull out, they get bigger. And look at my readout over here when I do that. It's changing the radius as well. So there's 1.5 inches. I can look back. Yeah, that'll work. Apply, close. Then later on, I can come back to it, go select it, go back into draw rectangle, and I can change it again. If I decide I want to bring that down to 1 inch, apply, close, and now I've got those. So it's not quite a fillet. It's just a radiused corner. And this is radiused, oops, radiused, no, wrong one. Radiused internal. So that's going to be in another absolute beginner video. In fact, I think it already did. I think I did that. So I think I have everybody's questions covered. Did somebody did I not get somebody's question? If there's a question that you asked and I didn't get to it, please let me know. But if not, I'm not sure that I'm going to have a video next week. I would. I don't know. Part of me says go ahead and do the keyhole bit next. Another part of me says not to do the keyhole next, but instead get over here into rotating and mirroring, because those were the next under transform objects. I think, honestly, my next video is going to be on rotate and mirror, and I will get into the keyhole bit at another time. The keyhole bit video that's already out there is still applicable. The colors of the interface are a little bit different. That's the only real difference, but I will do that. I'll do a mini series on the tool database, but I think the next one is going to be on rotate and mirror vectors. So, but I can't guarantee that'll be next week. I think we'll go ahead and call this good. Go ahead and wrap this up. We got a nice day today. I've got to go get a haircut. Hopefully the barber's open today. Don't know. And we got to go do some grocery shopping. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now. Channel members, tomorrow, as promised weeks back, we're going to get into segmenting and slicing 3D models, as well as a few other subtopics. That'll be tomorrow at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. Check the some people are still seeing community tab. Some people are seeing memberships. So either one of those, check that tab for the link to that members only live stream. Some good information coming, and I hope you'll join me. I want to give a special shout out and say thank you to channel member John Thompson, who sent me the cool, absolutely cool logo I got sitting back here on my rotary axis. That's going to be mounted on the wall roughly where that camera's sitting. Hopefully by next week. I haven't been able to get out in the shop in 6 weeks now. Yes, thank you to John. I really appreciate that's I mean, that was awesome, man. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or you'd like some information on how to become a channel member, then right below this video panel, you'll see somewhere down there, they keep moving it, you'll see the word join. So go ahead and click that word join. You're not joining anything. All that's going to happen is a panel's going to pop up and a video is going to play to tell you all about channel membership. We've got a great group of people. We'd love to have you aboard. We've got the private Facebook group and the, super secret private chat and secret handshake and all this other good stuff. Great group of folks, very talented individuals that are all about helping every one of us succeed. So we'd love to have you join us. If you're not a channel member, I will see you next week. Until then, I think that's everything. Go out and do something cool. If it's a nice day, fire up the barbecue. If it's not a nice day, order out. You deserve it. You deserve it. But no matter what you do, y'all take care. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. We'll see you next week.